Gustav would be a good name for a vampire, if anybody was curious about that. Also, my cat's name is Nandor, and he's named after a vampire. Nandor the Relentless. You might have heard of him. Nikki on the back. Boom. Hello everyone, welcome back to Foster the Meeple, a channel all about board games and board gamey things. I am back again today with another preview video, and today's preview video is on Vampire Lords, which is coming to crowdfunding soon. Now, as per usual with my preview videos, this is not an official how to play. It is more so a general overview to help you figure out whether or not this game is a good fit for you and if you would like to back it. Few things to note. Number one, this is a prototype version of the game, and that means that anything that you see, including rules, are subject to change as always. And if you are interested in this game, I'm going to have the links. Everything you need is going to be in the description below. At this point, they're planning to launch on November 4th, but if that changes, I will put that in the description of the video. Regardless, you can click the link and follow along the campaign. But I say, without further ado, let's take a closer look at Vampire Lords. Let's get spooky, let's get dark. Let's get vampire-y. Welcome to Vampire Lords, a gothic strategy game of conquest, blood, and betrayal set in 15th century Romania. The land is ravaged by war and superstition, and 4 ancient vampires rise from their ancestral castles to claim dominion over mortals. You are one of them. A cunning, immortal being commanding both the living and the undead. Your goal, control 5 towns by the end of the game, or if you dare to ally with another vampire lord, 8 towns between the two of you. But remember, alliances are fragile and dawn waits for no one. Vampire Lords blends area control, deck building, and negotiation into a game of dark strategy and shifting power. But what does any of that mean? I'm so glad you asked. Let's take a closer look at how the game works. So before we get into how it works, as per usual, let us take a look at the table state. Now, I am set up for a full 4-player game. The setup is going to look slightly different depending on how many players, 2, 3, or 4. The reason why I wanted to do a 4-player game example is because it's going to showcase kind of everything that's possible, which is mainly alliances. Alliances can only happen in a 4-player game. So just know if you are playing under 4 players, that is not part of the game, but I want it to include 4 players to know that it is part, and it is kind of an important part when you're playing with 4 players. So here we have the map. There's a lot going on in this map, but we have towns, we have areas that are controlled by different players. So you'll notice our kind of tokens. There are armies out, which are these stacks here. Every player is going to have their castle out on the board to start. We've got vampire spawns. We each have our own vampire lord. And there are also neutral tokens out on the board, but there's kind of a lot going on. We've got roads, we've got wilderness, we've got towns, we've got locales, controlled and not controlled, and all of that good stuff. Every player has their own player board with their own character. Clearly, because I'm set up for a 4-player game, we've got 4 of the characters out. We're using Mercia the Elder, Elizabeth Bathory, that's Vlad Dracul, and this one is Carmela von Karnstein. But we do also have 2 other options here as well. We have Radu the Handsome, and we have Amin Ratun. This over here is our market. We have a graveyard board. We've got plenty of tokens. The resources that we're using here are blood and money. We have unrest tokens. There's just a lot going on. Every player has a starting hand, which includes these 4 cards. We have Raid, Bypass, Bat Swarm, and Crypt Keeper. Everybody has those. And then each character will have their own 2 personal starting cards as well. These are action cards. Then we also have these kind of like lord ability cards, and each player has their own set of 4. The player who drank something red last gets to go first. So I'm going to say that was me. Even though I don't remember the last time I had a Shirley Temple not that long ago. Also, the other people here are made up. So, you know, me first, I guess. Each game lasts a maximum of 4 rounds, represented by the phases of the moon, which you can see here on the board. 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is the round marker here, which is the cloud. Each round unfolds through 5 distinct phases, creating a rhythm of politics, planning, combat, and consequence. So let's talk about those phases, starting with the diplomacy phase. This is where deals are struck and power begins to stir. Now, like I mentioned, in a 4-player game, you can form alliances in this phase. Alliances are powerful. 2 players can share victory if they control 8 towns together, whereas the other win condition is to control 5 towns by yourself. To seal an alliance, players will exchange one of their Lord ability cards, granting each access to a new dark gift. So if I wanted to create an alliance with, let's just do this one because that's much easier, with Carmela, I would give her one of my Lord ability cards. She would give me one of her Lord ability cards, and we've formed an alliance. So here's a few rules for if you want to build an alliance. Number 1, allies can't attack each other or spread unrest in each other's lands. I feel like that makes sense. Why are you attacking your ally? You can move through your ally's territory, but you can't stop there. And vampires can even support an ally's army in battle. Now, during the diplomacy phase, each lord also activates one new ability, evolving their vampiric powers. You can have up to 3 active at once, replacing old ones as needed. So, once again, these are the lord's ability cards. So, during this phase, you're going to be activating one. One of the ones that I have is necromancy. That's fun. The eternal service has just begun. So there's a little quote from the character. There's going to be some kind of an ability. So for necromancy, it says it can be used during the action phase. So basically this is saying every time you sacrifice a card, which is this icon here, you are going to gain 1 undead unit or soldier to the ancestral castle. And once again, these are our own ancestral castles. All right, that's what that one's saying. And they're all different. So I have necromancy, bloodbath, cold-blooded, and garden of souls, all of which are different. 2 of mine activate during the action phase. This one activates during a battle involving this lord, and this one is at the start of a battle. So they'll all have kind of when they trigger. Like I said, you can have 3 out at once. If you want to put one that you have in your hand out, you have to replace one that you already have. All right, so maximum of 3. And I will also mention we do have handy dandy reference cards, which everybody knows I love a handy dandy reference card. Finally, players will move their vampires, returning from foreign courts to the map or shifting to new wilderness regions, preparing for the bloodshed ahead. So these are over here, there's one at each corner. These are the different courts. There is going to be phases that we are going to be moving our vampire lords, etc. out to courts. So this one we can return them or we can shift them to new wilderness regions. The wilderness regions are kind of it's wilderness. There's no town, there's no village, there's no locale, there's nothing. It's just the wilderness spaces. All right. I will also mention during this phase when you are moving your vampires, you have to move them back from the courts. You can move them to any open wilderness, which essentially just means that there's not another vampire lord in that space, and you're going to be doing that starting with the first player and then going clockwise. Okay. The next phase is the action phase, which of course is the heart of the game. This is where everything comes to life or undeath. It's a fun way to say it. Players are going to draw cards from their deck based on the current moon phase. So like I mentioned, there are 4 moon phases representing the 4 rounds. So the first phase here is going to be the new moon, and we are going to draw 4 cards. So it's 4 cards, 5 cards, 6 cards, and then 5 cards, all of which is written directly on the board. So like I mentioned, we have a starting deck. So you'll draw 4, well, I didn't shuffle these, so let's just shuffle them just for fun, even though we're not really playing. So I would draw 4 cards from my deck during this first phase. All right. Each turn you'll play one card at a time or pass when you're done. Cards can be used in two ways: by activating their symbol to command armies or vampires, or by using their red text ability, performing powerful actions or effects. Every card you play then goes to your discard pile. Once your deck runs out, you'll reshuffle and draw again, just like in most deck builders. So we have two different symbols up in the top. This is the army. This is the vampire, okay? Red actions. So you'll see some of the cards have red actions and some of them don't. So this might be a better example because we wouldn't be playing this card this turn. So you could choose a card to play. As an example, this one is Raid, and this is an army ability. +1 unrest in 2 different locales, and +3 money or blood for doing that. So players are going to go in clockwise order, starting with the first player doing that. You can play as many cards as you want, but you are playing one at a time. So I could play maybe this bypass card. Then we're going to pass it over to Carmela, who might play another card. Then we're going to go to Vlad, etc. Then when it comes back to me, I can choose to either play another card or pass. Once you pass, you can't then decide when it comes back to you to play another card. Once you've passed, and this round is going to end when all players have passed. So during this round, it's totally possible that I only play 1 card, while Vlad ends up playing 4 cards and Carmela plays 2 cards or whatever, you know? You could choose to play whatever's in the red box, or you can choose to play for the symbol, which is going to give you a few different options. So let's actually start with army activation, which is this banner. Now everything's also written out here on our player boards, but just so you know, if I decided, I don't really want to do this red action, I can instead choose to use the symbol for one of the actions that comes with that activation. When you play a card with the army activation symbol, you can perform one of several military style actions. The first being recruit, and that's where you add 3 living units to your ancestral castle. Once again, ancestral castle. The beige tokens are our living units, while the black tokens are our undead units. Okay, just so you know the difference. The next thing that you could do is you can move your army up to 3 connected locales, leaving or taking troops as you go. So essentially you can move, drop people off, pick people up, do whatever you want as you're spreading out across the map. Now, like I mentioned, there's a bunch of different things kind of going on in the map, including villages and towns and roads. When I say locale, it essentially means just any of those areas. So it could be a town, it could be a village, whatever it may be. You're essentially moving between the roads and going to different locations, so locales. So let's just say this was the situation and I wanted to move my army by up to 3 locales. I could leave 1 there for 2, and then I can move this here for 3 if I wanted to do that. Now, if you happen to enter a neutral locale, then 3 neutral living units will immediately appear to defend it, essentially. But let's pretend I was moving into here. That is a neutral locale. Nobody is controlling it. Control can be marked by the different color tokens. If it's a town, it's by these tokens. If it's a village, it's by these tokens. So this is neutral. So 3 neutral units are going to pop up there. If you enter to an opponent's locale, battle is going to begin instantly. Battles are quick but brutal. Each side may play 1 battle card for its instant effect, and then they're going to roll dice. So we do have some cards with this symbol here with like the 2 swords. This is specifically for a battle. It's a battle instant effect, okay? I don't think I mentioned there are other instant effects on these cards. Anything that's kind of in black at the bottom, and there will be kind of different symbols. So you'll see these ones reference the graveyard. There are some that have this symbol, which is an instant that you get when you purchase the card. So just so you know, there's also more instant effects. So my battle card here is saying for every 2 undead in the ancestral castle, you're going to take away a shield from the opponent's army, and then you're going to be able to draw a card. So, like I said, we're going to be able to play these attack cards, and that's going to be starting with the attacker, which of course is a person who moved into that area. So I might want to play this, then they have the opportunity as the defender to also play a card. Then we're going to roll the dice, like I said. So the side that has more undead will roll the black dice. Now in this instance, we each have an undead unit, and it's probably hard for you to see, but green has 2 living, 1 undead. Purple has 1 undead. But in this instance, because the green player has more living, they will roll the beige die, and I only have undead, so I will roll the black die. All right? So at this point, we will roll dice. 1, 1. Now the next thing that we're going to do is each side is going to lose units equal to the number rolled by the other player. So I would lose 1, they would lose 1. So just to give a bit of a better example, I've given purple back 1 unit so that we can do like a full example here. So let's just say this is situation, we each rolled 1, we've removed our units. Finally, we're then going to add up the total battle strength of units remaining. This is going to include vampires that are nearby in the wilderness areas. You're going to choose one. And if you're in a town, it's also going to include any town defenses. But we're not. We're actually in a village. Purple has 1 unit left plus a vampire lord, which is going to count as 2 strength. Now, green has 2 units, and they have the option of either choosing and pulling in their vampire lord or a vampire spawn. Vampire spawns only have 1 strength, so they're going to use their lord, of course. And that's going to give them 1, 2, 3, 4. So green is actually going to be the winner of this battle. The stronger side wins, and the loser will then have to retreat or perish if they can't. Their blood turned into the resources of the victor, which you love to see. So purple may have to retreat back here. And I will mention, you can only do that, of course, if you have any units left. If in that first example I tried to show, all of the units were taken from purple, and so that token would just be removed off the board, because this is really just to sit on top of the units to show that that is that player's army. Now let's talk about the vampire activation, which is this symbol up here. It's a bat for vampire. Cards with the vampire symbol unleash your lord's darker powers. Each of your vampires may perform one of the following actions when one of these cards with the symbol is played. The first of those actions is to subdue a village. To do this, you're going to take control of an adjacent neutral village, no battle needed. So neutral, once again, remember, means there's no other player that controls that area. So to do this, you're going to take your vampire and you're going to move them into a wilderness, and then you're going to take over a village, a neutral village. No battle, not necessary. The next thing that they can do is hunt. When you hunt, you're actually going to take your vampire and you're going to place them in a wilderness section, and let's just say we want to go up here. When we do that, we're going to gain 2 blood, which are these little blood droppy tokens, and then we're going to place an unrest in an adjacent locale. So I may want to do that. It doesn't have to be an empty locale. Ooh, maybe I should go here for a better example. Maybe I want to do that. The last option that you have with your vampire ability is to travel to a court. You can visit one of the 4 powerful courts on the edges of the map for their unique effect. So to start, in the upper left-hand corner, we have Rome. Rome allows you to essentially extort another player. If they don't pay, their lord is dragged to Rome. Nobody wants that. And you can see it's all written right on the board. Choose another player. If they don't pay you 4 blood, move their lord here and gain 3 coins. Next up, we have Venice. Venice is right down here in the bottom left-hand corner. This one allows you to buy a card from the market for 2 coins or 2 blood less than it actually costs, and place it on top of your deck. Then over here in the bottom right-hand corner, we have Necromancer. Play the symbol and the text in the red box of the top card from the graveyard. So this is the graveyard here. This is essentially allowing you to activate the card that is on top of the graveyard. Last but not least, up in the right-hand corner, we have Vampire Elders, which allows you to add 3 undead soldiers to a locale that you control. When you use this action, your vampires will remain at the courts until the next diplomacy phase, so timing of this is key, especially if you're going to be playing other cards that may cause like battles or fighting, because your vampire lord will be MIA. They've gone to court. Vampires love to go to court. I've known that about them for a while, but you might still need them, so just keep that in mind. Next phase is the market phase. After everyone passes in the action phase, players will take turn buying new cards from the market. The first player who passed, excluding the current first player, I was like, how am I going to say that? Excluding the current first player, will become the new first player for this phase. Okay, so that's the first person that passed unless it was the active first player. The market is always going to offer the same type of cards. There are 3 standard action cards, there are 2 battle cards, and then there is going to be, this is a deck of all the same Sultan's support cards. You can spend gold or blood to purchase cards, adding them to your discard pile or directly to your deck if an effect says so. Some cards are going to trigger instant effects upon purchase, like drawing cards or gaining resources, shown by the pouch icon. So in our current setup, we only have 1 card that has that, but if you were to want this card, you'd pay the 2 blood, and then you get this instant effect, which is +2 undead soldiers to the ancestral castle, so you're going to put them into your ancestral castle. Building your deck strategically is key in this game. Tailor your cards to your vampire's powers and your chosen playstyle. Maybe you want to go with a little military domination. Maybe you want to go with a little manipulation, or just pure vampire chaos. I don't care. It's your game. You got to play it how you want to play it. But I do have to say that vampiric chaos does sound pretty fun. I will also mention when you do buy a card, it will get automatically refilled. Okay, so you always have the total of 6 to choose from. Next phase is harvest and upkeep. So now it's time to reap what you've sown. Each player is going to collect resources from their controlled locales. Your ancestral castle provides 2 gold and 2 blood. Once again, these are the resources, gold and blood. Classic vampire stuff. Each town you control will give you 2 gold. So in this instance, purple would gain 2 gold for this town. Each village that you control is going to give you a blood, as an example. That would give me a blood. If a locale has unrest markers, it produces nothing. So, haha to green. Haha, I put an unrest marker on there, all right? So the green is not going to get anything for this particular town that they control. Then we're going to go into upkeep, and every unit must be paid for. So we have all of these units, and it's great to have big armies and stuff, but the question is, can you pay them? Can you feed them? So for each living unit that you have out on the board, you need to pay 1 gold. So we're gonna just keep using purple as our example. This isn't a very good board setup. Everybody's just kind of staying away from purple. Purple has 1, 2, 3 living units. So, oh, look at that. So I, as a purple player, would need to pay 3 gold so that I can keep those units. For each black unit, which is the undead, 1, 2, 3, I have 4, you pay 1 blood token. If you can't pay, those units simply perish. Even the undead expect their due, okay? They're gone. Also, they're thirsty. They need the blood probably to live. Then we're going to go into the dawn phase, and as dawn breaks, mortals rise in rebellion. This is a classic human thing. We are relentless. Every locale with an unrest marker will gain another. So this is important. This is 1 unrest. Flip it over. It's 2 unrest. If a 3rd unrest is ever added or needs to be added, an uprising will occur. All units are removed and the locale becomes neutral again, and unrest spreads to its neighbors. So that would become neutral. Where's green? Over there. It was here. So now unrest unrest. Once uprisings are resolved, it's time to check for victory conditions. Once again, a single player is going to win if they control 5 towns total. If, in a 4-player game, an allied pair has 8 towns controlled total between the two of them, they'll win. If no one has won and the 4th round ends, so 4th round, alliances will dissolve and whoever holds the most towns claims final victory. Ties will be broken by villages and then total units or shared victory among equals. That, in a very general nutshell, is how the game works. Essentially, all you're doing is moving around the board, trying to gain control. This is really area control. But it also has that deck building element because you are trying to build up the cards in your deck to work with how your vampire works. So like I said, everybody's got their own ability cards here. So I already told you about mine. If we look at, let's look at Vlad's. I just think the name Vlad is really cool. So Vlad, his 4 cards are Cunning, Terrifying, Impaler, Vlad the Impaler, that makes sense, and Strategist. So you can already tell just by the names of those cards that his playstyle is going to be a little bit different than mine. So you have to learn a little bit about how your character works. Think about what are you lacking and who can you make an alliance with to make you even better because you're switching you're switching a card. But just don't forget that you can have armies and that's great. But if you can't feed your armies, if you can't pay them, they're gone. They're not that loyal to you. They still need money. Who knows what the undead spends their blood money on? It's none of my business, I'll tell you that much. Now, in the rule book, it does highlight all of the different vampire lords, tells a little bit about them, what all of their abilities are. So if you're playing a game and you want to learn kind of what everybody else has going on, you could take a look at this. It also has a strategy guide and then multiple variants that you can actually play. So as an example, we have the Long Night, we have the Planner, we have Cutthroats, we have All In. Let's just read All In. For players thirsting for vampire action, rule changes, all players start with both vampire spawns active on the main board and put them on any wilderness. So there's a lot of different variations that you can play. And then of course there's an FAQ and lots of resources for you as well. And I just want to, that art, 10 out of 10. All right, my friends, so your question might be, who is this game for? Vampire Lords is for players who love deep strategy, negotiation, and a touch of gothic storytelling. It's perfect for groups that thrive on tactical alliances, subtle betrayals, and the joy of seeing long-term plans come together or fall apart spectacularly. Each Vampire Lord has a unique playstyle, so Mercia the Elder thrives on resilience and resource manipulation, and Vlad Dracula revels in bloodshed and brutal tactics. Amin Hatton masters intrigue and politics, where Elizabeth Bathory commands death itself through necromancy. No 2 paths to power are the same. There's a ton of variety and variability in this game just based on who you're playing. And like I said, you can only play up to a maximum of these 4 characters. You can introduce others later, which is great. I do also want to mention that one thing I forgot to mention is if you do make a deal with somebody, it's binding. That's vampire law also. Vampires are people of their words. People undead of their words. I don't know how to say it, but you know. In Vampire Lords, power isn't given, it's taken. You'll negotiate, conquer, and outweigh your rivals, but in the end, only one truth remains. The night belongs to those who dare to rule it. So, my friends, if Vampire Lords sounds like it could be a good fit for you, for your collection, if you're just dying for another spooky vampire game to add to your collection, look no further. Like I mentioned, all the links, everything you need to know are going to be in the description below. Now, if you are interested in buying board games, we are going to go to our friendly local gaming store. For us, that's a Boardroom Game Cafe. If you like what you see, please subscribe. I hope to see you again soon. And now I say goodbye. Goodbye.